Good Thursday morning to you all, and welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show, and I'm your host, Sal Greco. Thank you all for being here. I see everyone in the comments. Matt O'Brien is always here. Thank you for being here. 92 Charlie. Fox always here. Joe Roscoe. Let's see. I haven't seen you in a while. January 1980. I hope I pronounced your name right. Says good morning. Good morning to yourself. Of course, Frankie Palaguacci. $9.99 off the bat with plenty of cafecitos to go around this morning to the Sal Greco Show. It says, thank you. Thank you, Sal Greco, for keeping us informed. God bless this show. Brooklyn Girl NYC is also here. Lone Silencer. Hassan, the original Mo. What's up? What's up to you? Hassan's in the chat. So stay trained up. Good morning to you also. So before anything else, if you can, please, if you're watching us on YouTube on the Sal Greco Show, please like, share, subscribe if you can. If you're watching us on Rumble, at the Sal Greco Show on Rumble, like, Rumble button. Also follow us, subscribe there. And if you're watching right now on X on the at the Sal Greco handle, please like this and share this out to all your friends, especially those in the low information bubble. And I'm going to cut right to the chase here. I know plenty of people are hopping on. There's an incident that occurred in the last 24 hours, and I had a post up. And originally I had one thing up there, but I'm going to show this post. So this was a new development. This incident actually took place in Queens and Internal Affairs at a conference with the Queens District Attorney and decided to arrest Captain Kai E. Brown, who walked into a family member being assaulted by another individual in his own home and took police action, effected an arrest. And then good old Chief Thompson, a.k.a. the chief of fraternization, a.k.a. chief of internal affairs, decided to make the call to prosecute this captain. I had the place of occurrence mixed up, and I apologize, which I did. I originally thought this was in the Bronx. So just so you have a few nuggets on this, here is Captain Kai. I hope I got his first name right, but definitely Captain Bowen, who, by all accounts, has an outstanding reputation on this job. He runs around. He's worked for community affairs. He holds a lot of community events. He's been to events with football, for football events, having the kids in the community for football. You know, this guy is, well-respected, well-known. People have worked with this guy. So he walks into his home, and I can't get into, you got to read between the lines here. He walks into his home, and a family member is being assaulted by a perp. He springs into action. He takes action. You know, that's going to be, is that going to be like, oh, sir, I'm going to turn around and you can arrest me? No. So there's going to be a tussle and there's an arrest made. He's an off-duty captain. This is what they train you to do. Remember, he's been in the police department over 18 years. He effects the arrest. They arrest the perp. Lo and behold, internal affairs, of course, they have to get involved, the whole 9 yards. So he's being held in Queens South, kind of on ice for Mr. Chief of Fraternization, Thompson. If you don't remember Chief Thompson, who's fraternizing with a subordinate, on duty, off duty, all over the place, has been seen in coming out of hotels and different locations with his detective driver. So Chief Thompson makes his decision of having Chief McIntosh, who runs Queens South. He's a 2-star chief. Of course, Chief Thompson, 3-star chief. Oh, you hold the captain here. And then he confers with the Queens District Attorney. Now, for you to understand, for a police officer to take action, there was no action taken on the scene. No one decided to do anything until a full day later. And then right after about like 24 hours or whatever it was, yesterday, Chief Thompson and the DA, Queens DA's office, which originally had as Bronx, which was my fault, that was my mistake, decides we're going to prosecute Captain Bowen. For what? For doing his job? Listen, just so you understand, if you walk into your own home and you see your family member being assaulted, do you spring into action? Because this is what Chief Thompson and the Queens DA are trying to say. You're supposed to stop and call 911. So that catch-22 when they tell you, oh, you're a police officer, you can take action when you're on duty 24/7. No. That applies only in certain situations, apparently. So like I said, they love throwing things around. At times it's the shield, and other times it's a sword. Here it is. It's a sword now. Oh, you can't do that. You have to call 911. You have to have on-duty officers on the scene immediately. The longer you wait, the longer somebody's getting assaulted or worse. And we'll leave it at that. So this is not sitting well with many in the police department, many in the community. And I hope this prosecution doesn't last too long, because it should be looked at. Because, you know, there's things that you do as a prosecutor, and you don't have to always go through with things. It's good because I have a good friend of the show coming on as today's guest that can actually detail this a little better than me, because, you know, there's prosecutorial, you know, we always talk about prosecutorial misconduct on this show, but there's also prosecutorial discretion here. And when you have a perp that you're arresting, I don't know how then you end up getting arrested. All of a sudden we take a perp, or, you know, we'll say, I'm using that word lightly, their word on something, right? So this is a very, we'll say it hits home, because for someone that's 18 plus years on the job, has a very good, upstanding record with not only the police department, but the community, and to be treated like this is disgusting. And this is always my fear. And it, you know, maybe I put too many emotions into this, because, you know, I remember what I went through and how everything that happened to me, but I don't make this about me. I'm looking at it as someone who's dedicated their life to the NYPD might have it not only stripped away from them, but be sitting in a jail cell over nonsense that all they did was do their job and do the right thing, and what anyone would have done in that situation for their family members. So we're going to keep you posted on that. But Chief Thompson, Mr. I Love to Fraternize, and my executive officer, Chief Bartolemo, doing the same thing with the PA and the Chief in the Internal Affairs Office and the Chief Internal Affairs Office. You guys shouldn't even be on the job. But I wonder why the soccer mom keeps you around. I wonder what you know about what's going on in one Pleasure Plaza that I haven't found out about, or the public, because how else is this guy still there as the Chief of Internal Affairs? Fraternizing, I mean, that's like the worst thing you could do. And, you know, I hope that the subordinate that you're involved with ends up suing the police department, because, you know, you could basically threaten her and do whatever, and she could turn around and say, I can't go over a supervisor. He's threatening me. That's what should happen. You're worried about lawsuits, so you want to lock up police officers that are doing their job. Upstanding captains, by the way. So I hope people understand the magnitude of the situation. I mean, yeah, shout out Eric Sanders in the chat, says fighting a good fight. Yeah, it's true. I don't like this kind of stuff. I mean, IMP Franco says, or upper management, should I say, he said, is it me or is the brass versus the rank and file? Because that's what it seems like. That's what it does seem like. But so I wanted to also get to a couple other things before I have Serena on. I want her to actually, we're going to talk about this for a second. So let me show you two things that also occurred in the last couple of days.
So two former NYPD officers were indicted today. Former Officer McMillan and Cologne. Now, Cologne, if you remember, I reported about how Mr. Cologne was a cadet in the New York City Police Department and worked in former Chief of Department Jeffrey Madry's office and under the one and only illustrious former Deputy Mayor of Public Safety for New York City, Kaz Daughtry. Isn't it interesting that he went on to become a little criminal in uniform while he was getting a lot of help from certain people? Isn't that interesting? Had it not been for Jeffrey Madry and Kaz Daughtry, Mr. Cologne would have never even been employed by the police department. And with such little integrity, isn't it amazing that Kaz Daughtry is now working in the Trump administration? How the hell can that be so?
Right, that's right. But then it was more that came out there in that day. So let's play this one coming out of another Kaz Daughtry special here.
On another Sal Greco Show exclusive, looks like NYPD Sergeant Gulin Bonfil the other day, just a couple of days ago, was in a hit and run accident and left the scene of the crime. He also apparently was intoxicated, kind of like another sergeant that did the same thing recently. Well, Internal Affairs did their job for once and investigated this case and brought this sergeant to justice today in Manhattan. Now, also, Rocco Periscandolo of the Daily News decides to post a story about Kaz Daughtry, which is good. It's good to get this in mainstream media, but at least, Rocco, next time, why don't you credit the guy and the show that actually brought this story to light with the placards. Of course, the article has no mention of other people involved in that, but it'd be nice every now and then to give a shout out to the little guy, if you know what I mean.
So there's a little backstory. You saw a sergeant that had a second DWI, left the scene, was arrested after the fact by Internal Affairs. And that part, Internal Affairs did the right thing, but of course, Thompson wasn't involved in that one. But they did the right thing. That guy was already, a central booking for a previous DWI. A lot of sergeants running around doing DWI, folks. Do not leave the scene. If you have an accident, listen, there's breath. You can do what you want. Take the test. Don't take the. I was a DWI expert, but don't leave the scene. Just that's stupid. That's how you get in trouble. And of course, then you saw that Kaz Daughtry, his former cadet, which was Jeffrey Madry's cadet, that should have never even been in the police department because God knows what he was doing in that office when all of this mischigas we started hearing about originally with the Eric Adams administration. We started hearing about all the corruption. He was there. And then what did he do? He turned around and started doing criminal stuff when he became a cop. And Kaz Daughtry, nobody asked him any questions about that one. But the state, I understand, dropped the charges that they were going to charge. And then the feds picked this up. There it is. Charged with federal civil rights violations. So, I mean, why is this little criminal running around as a cop anyway? Nobody asked those questions. How did he get through, Kaz Daughtry. I mentioned 2 months ago about the placards that were missing. There's still placards that have not been received in the New York City Police Department by the cops. So the placards were missing because there's someone in the police department right now who's active that was in charge of handing these out. And by the way, very close. It's a detective, very close with Kaz Daughtry. And there's also a disgraced chief, I believe, running around somewhere, might be on Fox News today. Allegedly is in possession of a placard themselves, and it was seen on a vehicle recently. Out with the soccer mom and, of course, Sid Rosenberg somewhere. So these placards are out there. And the question is then, yes, it's definitely official misconduct. So there should be an investigation immediately on Kaz Daughtry. But is this possession of stolen property? Is this stolen property? What is the soccer mom doing with everything? So without any further ado, let me bring on our guest, big friend of the show, and we're also big fans of hers, and that's the one and only Serena Townsend.
Thank you, Sal. What a great intro. Thanks for having me.
It's been a while. You haven't been on, but I figured I'd start with what did you take on that whole thing? The two cops got indicted, and then Kaz, the placards, which I is official misconduct. What's going on there? Why are we not seeing anything with that?
I find it really interesting to talk about these placards because there's such parallels to the DOC when I was investigating at DOC and now when I represent officers at DOC, because it's a whole scandal at DOC about Gate 1 passes. Those are the passes to be able to get into the parking lot and get past certain security areas. And I'm telling you, investigations have found that certain people have been selling Gate 1 passes. Yep. They are bribing people with Gate 1 passes. They are asking for sexual favors in exchange for gate 1 passes, I mean, I literally represented a female officer in a case like that, and made her a lot of money. But it's just, that's the parallel, right? Like for DOC, it's the gate 1 pass, and for NYPD, it's the parking placard. And it's just insane to me. It's insane because it's so well known, at least at DOC. So I'm sure at NYPD also, like, it's this unspoken secret. Everybody knows that these things are like hotcakes. They are selling them. They are misusing them. You see, unlike DOC with the gate 1 pass, you could see people misusing the parking plaques, like, just randomly on the street. So it's happening, but you're right. There's very little enforcement of this.
And the allegation, I had this because I had said this 2 months ago. It's funny now, 2 months later, Rocco Parascandolo wants to run around like he came up with this whole thing and forget about the guy that actually came up with it. It was this show and had this as an exclusive. But, Eric Adams has his involvement in this. I did mention another disgraced former chief, that might be in possession of one from what I understand. But there's a lot of, like, these placards are a big deal, because all the unmarks didn't have any, which you just discussing. Yep. DOC is the same thing. So what is it? Why is there should be an investigation right now by the DOI, which you dealt with too?
Absolutely.
What are they doing? The placards are missing. Why is it? What needs to be done to bring this case forward? Because Kaz Daughtry should be prosecuted for. He should be looked into, and so should his friend, his little detective pal that was running that unit, handing the placards out.
Here's the thing. I think that a lot of people think that this is just not a big deal, right? They're like, well, what's the difference? So some people get to park better on streets and like get to reserve spots that other people don't. Yeah, it's an unfair benefit, but like, what's the big deal? Is it really a crime? And here's what you're missing if that's what you're thinking, and what maybe DOI is missing if they're not looking into this. The point is that you are also, aside from, breaking rules and laws, you are also creating a very toxic culture within the department, a culture where favors are owed, a culture where you can hold things over people for promotions. And that is a very, very bad thing. And that is essentially corruption, which is what DOI is supposed to investigate. That's what that is. And so one day it could be parking placards, another day it could be promotions or sexual favors or whatever. Like, this is just another tool that is being used by people in power to control other people and to get other people to do what they want and whatever. You use it's currency. So it should be looked into. It's not a big deal. And I think that, everybody knows it's happening. So it can't be that difficult to investigate.
I'm singing the same tune as you. I can't understand for the life of me why there's all this complaining and they have all this, there's a lot of meat here and they're not going, just the bone is just, they're not even touching it. That's my problem. And of course, the two officers or former officers that they indicted federally, the state had dropped that case, but the feds picked it. But what was interesting is that cadet that I mentioned, that particular one, he was as a cadet in Jeffrey Madry's office as chief of department when Kaz Daughtry, so he knows those clowns. Mm-hmm. And somehow he snuck on the job. And there's all kinds of stuff that you've heard, as I like to say, Michigas. Yet he came on the job, and then the minute he got there, look what he did. Started bribing people, kinds of stuff. So, I mean, I don't know, get your thoughts on that before I jump to the next thing.
Yeah, well, because that's who he learned from, right? He learned that there's no accountability and that you could basically do what you want. And if anything, it's actually corroboration of what was going on with Kaz Daughtry and Jeffrey Madry, because this is the product of their office. This is the guy that they graduated into the department. And he is, right? He is now the example of what he learned as a cadet. So it's terrible. It's terrible. It shouldn't be surprising. And everybody should know, that this is why it happened. I heard that the DA's office had dropped the case. I don't remember what the reasoning was, but I find it very interesting and encouraging that the feds picked it up and are pursuing it.
Yeah, because, we've had so much faith in him since, case was dropped. But
yeah, I'm not going that far, but at least it's something.
got so much faith in the Southern District of New York these days, especially under Todd Blanche. What a great guy he is, running, being second in command, or really first in command at DOJ, because Pam Bondi, we could say a lot about her. So I want to show you the next thing. We have this final video. This came out last night in regards to this inspector who's a crony, first for Eric Adams. Now he's trying to be a crony for Mayor Mamdani. So let's hear what happened.
A few days ago on the Sal Greco Show, we exclusively reported about an officer and a detective having some extracurricular activities on duty, and they were working for the public security section, which is the intel and the intel division, and that they were assigned to the New York City Speaker of the City Council, Julie Menig. Well, the person overseeing that unit was Inspector Rana. His history on the job is, I don't know how he didn't get terminated, but he failed to supervise people as a lieutenant and got in trouble for that. He's an Eric Adams crony. He was supervising them. Well, it's come out now. He actually knew about this relationship with these two officers before the Sal Greco Show even knew about it, and before their suspension. Well, now they were both suspended. And we reported to you that Mr. Rana was being looked at by the mayor's office after my expose. They were embarrassed. They called One Police Plaza, and guess what? He was now transferred to the counterterrorism division. And I wonder if this is Mr. Rana failing forward, or is he going to be held responsible for failing to supervise yet again, and this is the end of his NYPD career? We don't know, but we'll keep you informed, especially on the next episode of Sal Greco Show.
Serena, I found this out in the last 24 hours. That, of course, I had mentioned previously that he was being looked at and that he was basically on ice. They were going to get rid of him because what we didn't know, I found out also in the last few hours, which is a lot of news, but that he knew that the officer and the detective that were having this render this activity there on duty, he knew about it. He knew about it for a while. This wasn't something that, it just came about, I just found out. No, that's why he had to be removed. On top of it was embarrassing for them to watch me in the morning, pick them apart over this. That's why, this is what led to this entire moment of him being transferred. Now, the question you hear, Serena, is, do you think he's failing forward? Meaning, that's a promotional spot, by the way. Does he get promoted for all of this stuff like he has been getting promoted? Or is he going to be held accountable and investigated? And technically, he could just retire today. He has 21 years on if he wants. Or he's going to be held accountable. Which one do you think happens here?
Well, it depends on who he knows and what he knows, right? Because we all know that accountability is not doled out fairly. I wish it were. But how many people have you heard of in kind of similar situations, maybe not the exact situation, but in a supervisory role where in the past they've already been disciplined for failing to supervise, which is a bad look now that this happened under his watch because he has that prior, right? Yeah. How many people would be promoted to counterterrorism, and how many would be modified with the commissioner seeking their termination? Because to me, I think you need to take a fair look at these things and treat everybody the same way for the same actions. And this does not necessarily feel like it fits in the rubric of the disciplinary matrix based on his prior situation and the current knowledge that he was aware of this. I mean, at the very least, even if he was aware of the relationship, he should have probably separated the two into different departments so that they weren't working with each other. It sounds like one was a supervisor of the other, right? One was a detective and one was an officer.
Yeah, so they're both.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's. I'm not saying that's illegal, but you shouldn't be in this. You probably, if you're a supervisor above that, if this guy Rana knew about that, he probably should have just transferred one of them, or something like that, because this could happen, and it's such an embarrassment, and now everyone's going to get disciplined.
And also the problem was that the cop was suspended, not the detective. She was modified first, then they suspended her. And then listen, the cops, you've seen 4-6 precinct. There's a fraternizing problem underneath the soccer mom that she doesn't address. I just mentioned before, who's in charge of this pyramid of fraternization? Actually, the chief of internal affairs himself, who's doing it. And also Hansy, chief of department, Hansy, Michael LePetri, who's missing in action. He's never at work, actually. Takes a lot of days off. In fact, this weekend, which we're about to get to ask you a couple of things with that when I have Jack on. This weekend, if you notice, Serena, chief of department, chief of patrol, and the chief of Manhattan, I think it was Manhattan North. That's where it happened. All not there. They were all off on the same day. Yet this event is happening. Someone's got to stay back. If one guy's scheduled on vacation, one of those should stick around. But those three were nowhere to be found. So, and not the only knock I have on the police department on that day is that, the three big honchos for the day were not around. So it ended up becoming the executive officer's problem, which was Edwards, who I applaud. And I think he did a great job despite what he has to deal with, which is that protest settlement agreement. So, but this whole fraternizing thing stinks from the top, and she's not doing anything about it, Serena. And you've had these cases at corrections.
Yes, I have. And there's ways to handle it. There's ways to also, like I said, handle it before it gets to this point. And I think that's one of the biggest issues, because you could, as long as that relationship was reported and is consensual and whatever, there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. But obviously doing the things that they were doing on the job is not okay. And also, again, there's ways to prevent that by separating them and kind of like reading them the riot act before these things go to hell. Yeah.
And then you get promoted if you allow that to happen. Kind of like the 4-6 precinct CO, another fiasco over there as well. So, but now I think it's a good time to have on the producer, the co-host, the wingman, our man Jack, because he's got plenty to discuss about a couple topics with you as well. So, Jack, welcome to the stage. What do you got?
Yeah, I think you guys made a good point about kind of the tier justice system that's taking place right now. If you're in a blue shirt and you're a cadet, you're extra vulnerable. They're going to try and come down on you to make an example out of you. But if you're Jeffrey Madry and you beat someone up with a gun, as he did back in 2017, it still doesn't matter because you're able to get multiple different promotions. And it's kind of like it's a tier justice system, as I just mentioned, right? Yeah. So with these officers, I would like to know who was supervising them, where were the instructions when they were out on patrol coming from, and what were the higher-ups thinking about their prostitution raids? Because I know there's been a lot of debate recently about those raids on Roosevelt Avenue. I know the police department kind of cut down on them because the woke DAs weren't prosecuting anyone. But still, I mean, I do not believe that these two cadets had the idea to go in and do this alone without feeling like what they were doing was okay. Because when you read the description, it was a very intricately well thought out plan, and they clearly have been thinking about doing this for a while.
Yeah, and obviously, with the lack of supervision, just made it a lot easier.
Yeah, I have one thing too. I don't know if you could talk about this case. You're representing someone from the 44th precinct.
Am I?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking because I'm thinking this case you might because it was brought to my attention.
I am, yes.
Yeah. So can you discuss anything about that, or is it?
Not yet, but it's going. Like we are pushing it. Like I'm going to defend him, and it's going to be hopefully the best defense he's ever had. I can't speak to the details, but obviously, time will tell if it all pans out the right way. But look, what I'll say about that, and generally speaking, is again, I do think that justice follows different people in different ways, depending on the color of your shirt. And depending on, as you mentioned earlier, Sal, the prosecutorial discretion, right? There's discretion to handle cases. There's discretion to pursue or dismiss cases. There's discretion to plea out cases, to a fair disposition and not, come down hard on somebody if something is really just a mistake rather than an intentional crime. There's all shades of gray, is what I'm trying to say, when you are a good prosecutor. But when you only, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's what we like to say, right? And,
Good analogy.
right. And so, look, I've had a lot of success in criminal courtrooms, especially recently, which is one of the reasons why I haven't been on, Sal. It's because I've been on trial. I've been really, but winning really difficult cases. So I am not concerned. I feel I have a very good client. I like this client a lot. And I think he's got a lot going for him, and I'm very proud to represent him.
Good thing. We'll mention that in the future then. And
Yes.
By correction, I had the executive officer of the chief of patrol wasn't there. So both that incident that occurred over the weekend. So the chief of department was missing in action. The chief of patrol was missing in action, and his executive was missing in action, which is why Edwards was in charge of the event. And the 3-star chief involved running the whole thing was Chief Galata, who you got to give a round of applause to. He, by the way, might be your next chief of department because there's something going on with Mr. Hansy. So that's another one I'm giving you all. I'm giving you a lot of tidbits today.
Wow, it's spicy today.
Yeah, seriously, Sal, you just opened up Pandora's box and almost forced us down the rabbit hole into another conversation about Tish's departure and who's going to replace LaPetri. But before we talk about any of those things, which we will at a later date, Serena, Harvey Weinstein did his first kind of public interview in a very long time, right? And he talked about life behind bars at Rikers Island. He said, I'll be proven innocent, I promise you. He talked about how he was dying here and about how the inmates had been attacking him. I guess he was expecting people who are reading that story to feel bad for him somehow. But I want to bring it up from this angle. This has been going on for what, like 8 years now? He was originally convicted back in 2018. He's still sitting at Rikers. He was tried on 1 count of sexual misconduct back in 2014, convicted. A year before that, he was convicted in Los Angeles. But this case feels like it's moving along at a snail's pace, given that it's been going on for almost a decade now. Yeah. Weinstein's not getting any younger. He's 73 years old. Is this ever going to reach its final resolution, or is it just going to be kind of this back and forth tug of war until the day he dies?
Honestly, I've been saying he might die before he gets this final trial. He was tried for 3 different complainants, and 2 of the complainants got their verdicts. The jury came back guilty on 1, not guilty on the other. The 3rd complainant, that the result was a hung jury. And that's what he's waiting on now, is a retrial on this 3rd complainant. And so, yeah, it's going at a total snail's pace. He is old and ill, and he's at Rikers, which is not a good, that's a terrible combination of things to check off your life bucket list. So I don't know. Also keep in mind, he recently fired Arthur Aidala and hired Mark Agnifilo as his attorney. So you got to keep that in mind, because I know that happens sometimes to me, where somebody will fire their attorney and hire me. And things have been happening for years on that case. That new attorney is going to need time. Mark Agnifilo is going to need time to review the file. He's going to want to read all of the minutes on the last trial, because this is a retrial. So as a lawyer, you have to prep that case really well. You got to not only know everything, but you have to know everything that's been said, because you got to know what to confront these witnesses with if they change their story on the stand the second time around with prior inconsistent statements. So this could take a long time. Also, not sure if you know this, but Mark Agnifilo has a lot of stuff on his plate already. You know, he's representing Luigi Mangione. You know, he's just got done with that other trial with the brothers who were convicted. So I don't know, man. I think Harvey Weinstein might be rotting in hell for a while before he actually gets to the real hell.
I see this too. I mean, look, diabetes, heart operation, cancer, spinal stenosis, he's in a wheelchair. You know what? I remember you also had litigation against him too with Amber Gutierrez. Remember, we were on the show. Right. That was another case. Yeah. What's up with that one? What's going on?
I can't not mention Ambra. She's the best. She's my client. We are still working together. We are obviously still pursuing what we want to see happen, which is an investigation, an unbiased investigation into the reason why the case against Harvey Weinstein was dropped when Ambra was his first victim to outcry. When there was all of this evidence that she was able to collect, she was so brave. She put herself out there. She did a controlled phone call, got him to confess. She wore a wire and met up with him like the day after he sexually assaulted her, which is incredibly brave of her to do.
Yeah.
In a hotel, she met up with him with the wire. And he, again, not only made an admission of guilt on that wire, but was recorded trying to pursue her and abuse her again that night. So, I mean, the whole thing stinks from the top. We know he skated by on that case, and God knows he's getting his punishment now, but we want more. We don't want Harvey Weinstein to be the only one investigated for that. We want the NYPD to be investigated for that. We want Cy Vance and the DA's office to be investigated for that. Why didn't they go forward with that case? We know why. We know it's because they felt Amber was expendable and they wanted to keep Harvey Weinstein on their good side for all of the reasons we know. He's famous. He has money. He provides money to the NYPD. We know all of the reasons. We just want it in writing and we want it confirmed.
You know, listening to your description, Serena, I just wonder how shifts in public opinion and I guess public knowledge about all the aspects of this case is going to impact the final outcome. Because remember when Weinstein was first investigated, there was a lot of reporting on the mishandling of his case regarding the NYPD and other parties, agencies in Los Angeles. But now it feels like time has kind of covered that up a little bit. Are you confident that the court is ever going to really take a hard look at everything that transpired with Weinstein? Or is it going to be similar and kind of a repeat of what happened with Bernie Madoff, kind of the Ponzi scheme expert who died in prison in North Carolina at the age of 80, but wasn't convicted till he was in his late 60s. And we never really saw him be brought to justice. Is it going to be a repeat of that, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be, unfortunately. I think on the one hand, like exactly you said, enough time has passed and we have enough evidence and stories at this point to know what a terrible person he is and what he's done. And Amber's reputation is stellar compared to his, and she's credible. And I think people have certainly come around now and they're no longer hiding behind the, you know, casting couch and not talking about it because they want opportunities for themselves. That is over. He's already been, you know, we already know him. He's been outed at this point. So on the one hand, I think there might be more appetite to delve into it. On the other hand, I think people are like, you know, they get fatigued. They're tired of talking about him. They're tired of it. They've heard it. They've seen it. He's been prosecuted 65,000 times, you know, and they feel like he's got his. But, you know, we're not going to stop fighting because, again, it's not just about him. It's about the structure that allowed this to happen, the structure that allowed him to get away with it. And by the way, continue to violate women. Let's not forget that because they turned a blind eye to this and he was not held accountable, he was free and brazen enough to continue to do his thing. So all these other victims that could have been saved were instead exposed to him.
Yeah, and you also have Michael Osgood, the good retired Chief Michael Osgood. Shout out to Mike. I know he likes, he always watches the show, and he was excellent when he came on. And there's your star witness that could tell you all the failures, which there were many, and he can't get around. And he's kind of telling everyone when he was on here, he's laying the groundwork from years ago to what we have right now that goes on in New York City Police Department. Remember, he was an executive. He was explaining everything, and then it was sounding familiar because you're like, wait a minute, this is going on as we speak. And now it's on steroids. And this is not Eric Adams is your mayor. It's just the police department. It's his own creature. And if you don't look at it that way, see what we have, all these end results. They can't corral this crazy behavior that they have behind the scenes. It's like a frat house. That's the best way for me to describe it. It's like you have your little worker bees, you know, like people, you know, like someone, BSK says 824, shout out. They says, driver NYPD boss, you're on the RMP cast.
Oh my God.
You know?
By the way, that's a great title for a new show, Sal. RMP casting couch.
I think it would be rated X though, Serena. I don't know if we can get on our YouTube channel.
I'll probably get striked. I got one other question before I let Jack ask you something. But you also had the case where you represented, I believe, was it 4 or 5 chiefs and a deputy commissioner, and you were suing for things like pay for play for promotions. Remember all of that went on. So I want to see the status of that of all those cases.
We're still pushing those cases forward. We've made our demands and we are awaiting a response. I will tell you that I'm extremely confident with these cases. I think, you know, if they don't give us what we want. We'll be happy to go to discovery. I would be thrilled to conduct those depositions, and I'm ready for trial tomorrow. So that's basically where we're at. I obviously am still representing all of these individuals who I have very high respect for. And the evidence is there. There's no doubt in my mind, not even just in my mind, it exists. The evidence is there. And the only question is going to be how many people we take down when all of this comes out. Not whether we take people down, but how many. Because this goes all the way up to the top and all the way through the NYPD. It goes up, down, left, and right. And I'll uncover every single thing. You know, I'm not just a former prosecutor, but I am an investigator at heart. I ran internal affairs at Rikers. This is not something that, in my opinion, they should be fighting, because I will tell you, I will uncover every single thing that has happened through the discovery that I demand. So we'll see what happens with the cases. I'm very confident, and obviously we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, I definitely want to be kept up to date with that one, because that was another question. A lot of people asked me about that case and said, well, what's going on with that? Because you had to pay for play, all that stuff. So there was a lot going on there. So there's your update. And you never know. We might be breaking when that goes. And I know the gamesmanship that goes on with the city, you guys really don't understand out there that they play games. They drag their feet. The judges always allow them to drag their feet. They don't do it as much in the state court, but in federal court, they could drag on forever. Like Eric Adams' case, where he sexually assaulted a female way back in 1993, and they made this law because they wanted to go after Trump, but then it was used against Cuomo and Adams, and now this woman has been through the ringer for now 2+ years, and he's no longer the mayor since this case. And that just shows you. Where did they stop this? At discovery. They start dragging their feet. They play the gamesmanship. That's all this is. So just for people to understand what Serena deals with 24/7 with 10,000 cases. It's all over the place.
And these people are still running wild like it's the Wild West, too. Mayor Adams, the minute he's out of City Hall, he creates a cryptocurrency and then rug pulls $50 million from all his rich investors. Jeffrey Madry is making $150,000 a year from his pension and apparently taking bar exams in different states to try and get a law license. And there's just no justice at all. So it's gotten to the point of ridiculousness. You look at other law enforcement agencies, I'm not saying flowers are blooming and roses are growing everywhere, but at least they're bringing people to justice who are committing wrongdoing. In the NYPD, it seems like it takes forever and they just hope that it grows wings and flies away, or they do absolutely nothing and the individuals involved are somehow rewarded in the end with a promotion, or they have family members who are hooked up. So it's just a totally screwed up system, and we hope that by exposing it, people become aware of what's going on and there's changes to the hierarchy structure that prevent future things like this from happening again.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have accountability there, and I'm very interested in hearing about Jeffrey Madry's journey to the bar, not the bar that we all think of, like
I know.
Listen,
I'm working on it. I don't want to release any information until I have confirmation that everything I've been told is factually accurate. But I think a lot of you guys are going to be surprised when you hear about what Jeffrey Madry's been doing over the past 6 months and really the past year, because he engineered a masterful exit from the police department like I've never seen before. So I'm looking forward to telling the world about it. But anyway, a couple months ago,
I'm looking forward to the character and fitness interview.
Gotcha. Anyway, a couple months ago, Mayor Mamdani named Stanley Richards as his new police commissioner. Serena, I know you're going to have a lot to say about this as a former corrections veteran yourself, but this was eerily similar to when Bill de Blasio appointed Joseph Pont his police commissioner, because Pont had, overseen jails in a number of different states, most recently Maine. There was a lot of optimism about how he was going to create reform within Rikers Island. Then the next thing you know, he's driving all around New England in a company car and stealing city expenses to pay for gas and tolls and all that other stuff. So that was one case where the expectations never really were lived up to. But with Richards, I mean, a lot of people are optimistic about him because he was formerly incarcerated. He seemingly can relate to a lot of the inmates, but you don't really know right now how much power he's going to be given by this administration. That's why I have a little bit of pause when really evaluating this decision.
Yeah. Oh, I have so much to say. First of all, I really like Joseph Pont. I know the driving thing, the car thing really did a lot of people in. And in fact, I was the one who investigated the cases. I don't know if I investigated his case, but I investigated a lot of those car cases, and people really got jammed up with that. But I liked him as a commissioner. I did. It's hard to come in from Maine, actually. Like when you come in from another state to New York City politics and New York City government, you get murdered. Like you just get killed. And
Andy Byford with the MTA.
Yeah, I mean, and even the person who took over for Joseph Pont after that, Cynthia Brand, she was also from Maine. And like, whatever, we New Yorkers, like, we don't take well to that. And by the way, I don't blame us. Like, New York is very specific. We're very unique. We have unique gangs in our jails and in custody. We have unique, crimes that happen here and ways that people commit crimes and a unique court system. Like, it is actually very hard to come into New York City and run a department from elsewhere. Joseph Pond is the one who hired me. So obviously I'm going to have love for him, despite the car thing. He was good. He was a good commissioner. He really did try to reform the place. And I will tell you this, and this comes into the Stanley Richards segue that you want to go into. It was impossible to reform that place. It was not, I'm going to say it wasn't his fault. It wasn't Cynthia Brand's fault. It wasn't Vinnie Schiraldi's fault. Molina is a moron, so I'm not going to go there, but he made everything worse. But you can't reform that place in the way that it was without a receiver. And that is why this question of how Stanley Richards is going to do is very interesting, because he's coming in at a time where there's a federal receiver. As you know, I and a couple of other people fought very, very hard to get a receiver in there. And that's because, right, there's just certain rules and things that you cannot change as commissioner because you don't have the law on your side. But with a federal receiver now they hired a guy named Nick Demmel. We're going to be seeing, hopefully, that relationship, and we're going to see how Stanley Richards utilizes the receiver, strategically, hopefully, to make certain changes that need to happen. And obviously what I'm alluding to a lot here is, the union contracts and certain things that have occurred over time that don't allow for certain changes to be made that really need to be made to reform the place. So for me, I'm excited to see how that works.
Nick Demmel, Mr. CIA himself. He was in the CIA, for those of you who don't know. And then he was a commissioner, I believe, in Connecticut prior to that in the prison. So he has experience as a commissioner. Now he's the receiver. He is basically the middle guy between the government and this correction commissioner's got to implement whatever they want through him. So that's going to be interesting. I thought it was an interesting pick because it's an outside the box kind of pick, but again, he still has a soccer mom in the police department. I don't know what the hell he's doing there, Mayor Mamdani. But I did want to ask you, over the weekend, you saw what happened, right? And you saw these two, I don't want to call them radicalized kids, where they're not even from New York, they're from Pennsylvania. They actually charged these two because they had the IED device and they were throwing it, and they threw it in the direction of Jake Lang, who's running around with a goat. And I went over this whole thing last time. What's your thoughts on that prosecution? Because the feds hit him. I don't know if they hit him hard enough, but I think they hit him with everything they had, including the kitchen sink with the charge.
I mean, I'm glad that they did. I'm glad that they hit. I mean, that was a very scary thing. And I know that you and others have been reporting on so many angles on that incident, like how the police handled it, how they should have handled it, how things, could have gone. And so, look, I think everybody needs to be held accountable who is involved in that situation, everybody. And I'm glad that the feds picked up that case. I think that was a really dangerous situation. It sounds to me, I don't have every detail, but it sounded to me like it could have been absolutely catastrophic had it not, right, that it didn't detonate, right? Like something went wrong with it.
Yeah, it didn't detonate properly.
By God's grace, that didn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
like
the contraption inside of the bomb was not set up properly. Like the pieces weren't all connected so that it would trigger once it lit. That's why when it fell down, it was just rolling around.
Right.
It didn't trigger properly. Right.
And so, like, it's great that, crisis averted, but was crisis averted because of good police work or by the grace of God? Like, it kind of seems like, I don't know if that would have, if injuries would have been prevented if it just didn't simply fail on its own. And that's a very scary thought. And I do think charging them with whatever you can is the way to go here. I really do.
Yeah, not to mention, you can't really, the protest settlement agreement is what handicapped the police department from the police department of old. So I applauded what they did.
Yeah.
It's better off the feds have this case than Alvin Bragg, because obviously that guy would probably mess things up unless it's got to do with some kind of corruption of police. Then he's good with that. He's very good.
He'll also face more jail time under the feds. So
I want to ask you, Serena, what preventative measures would you try and pursue to prevent something like this from happening again? I know you can't really do a whole lot, but listen, these were like 18 and 19-year-old kids who had suburban upbringings. One of them grew up in a $2.5 million mansion. They had good families. They had good parents. But somehow they were brainwashed on the internet, which is a all too familiar, dangerous, cautionary tale. As an attorney, what do you look for in this case that hopefully prevents something like this from happening again?
I want to address that because I do think there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking that happens a lot of the time. Something happens and then everybody's like, well, why didn't you prevent that? And it's very difficult to prevent crime. It is. However, I think that, step one is to be like, look, what are the events that might take place in the city that are more likely to be visited by extremists? And I do think that this is the type of event where that would occur. Now, do we think that they should have zeroed in on these kids who were, who had no records and apparently grew up very well and didn't have any indication that they would be terrorists? Not necessarily. I don't know that they could have or would have known that this was going to come. However, I do think that just the event itself should lead to concern. The location, the topic of the event. But again, as Sal mentioned, sometimes the police are handcuffed, no pun intended, because of policy decisions. So the equation is not that easy to compute. It isn't. Sometimes you do have to just be reactive.
No, I understand. It's very hard to preemptively see this thing well in advance. I was just wondering if there were any ways to flag maybe ISIS-related posts or people who have been putting up crazy rhetoric on the internet, or to have the FBI or the Department of Justice review such flag posts. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud and spitballing here, but the bottom line is it seems like the younger generation in particular, when you look at some of the mass shootings that have taken place recently, is at an increased vulnerability level when it comes to getting brainwashed online. There's anecdotal evidence which kind of, in my opinion, speaks to that.
What's interesting is I actually was on a podcast panel actually yesterday on AI and corrections, but and this was with the AI Consortium, and they actually had other episodes with other individuals on AI and policing, I think maybe a week or two ago. I highly recommend watching that. But I do think that AI is something to consider in the future. And I know people like me, frankly, defense attorneys and legal people in the legal field in general will have trouble, of course, with people using AI and facial recognition and, the privacy implications of that. And I get that. And I think that we should navigate AI very cautiously so as not to violate people's rights. But on the other hand, I do think that AI is a world that we can't ignore and we need to look into for exactly what you're saying. Because God knows humans can only do so much to scan the internet and pull out keywords and find things, whereas AI can be used at a push of a button and has the energy and swiftness of thousands of humans. So it's something to consider for sure for the future.
But I know you got to go, Serena. So I have one last question, because I know you and I always go back and forth with this one since it was actually filed. It was filed for another friend of ours, John Scola. Shout out to John out there.
Yeah.
The Tom Donlin case was dismissed, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that dismissal? Because I understand why they're saying it's all, I guess there's nothing to really say that it was a criminal enterprise. It has to be kind of proven. But I get what he was doing. They said he was overreaching. What are your thoughts on that dismissal? And then obviously his appeal going forward with that case.
I wish him the best of luck on the appeal. I love John Scola. I think that what he's doing is very, very important work. I think the Donlin complaint was so explosive, and I think it rang true. And I think the court really relied on technicalities. They said, you went for RICO, which is really swinging for the for the top, right? That's going for the grand slam RICO charge, right? So it is hard. It's hard to make that out. So I understand, but I fully support John Scola and his work, and I hope that he wins his appeal, because I would love to see the discovery in that case too.
Yeah, I know. I just would have been great to see that epic Eric Adams testimony or something like that. Maybe I get it. Who knows?
Yeah.
I just want to hear what's really going on behind the scenes. But Serena, I know you got to go. You're a busy gal. You got a lot of cases. So just before you leave, give everybody, tell them when they can follow you. I know you're on TikTok as well, but you're not talking about Luigi Mangione because they try to ban you. Just give everybody time so you know where they can follow you.
You could find me in so many places. I'm on X, Serena Townsend on X. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram as Serena Tee. But my website, because I own my own law firm, Serena, it's Townsend Law PLLC. So you can find me on my website, townsendlawnyc.com. And really, if you just Google me, you'll find me everywhere. You could just follow from there.
There you go. Well, listen, it was great having you on. Maybe next time you do a little longer, but like I said, very busy. You got a ton of cases. So I wish you the best in the courtroom. And we'll talk to you soon, Counselor. Have a good day. And also, hello to your husband, because people don't know. I know her husband. We used to go in the same Brooklyn DA's office. We had cases between her husband and it's like, we everyone know each other. But
thank you, Sal. I will tell him. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, Serena.
Good seeing you guys.
Have a
good one.
Bye.
Later.
So there you have it. Serena hasn't been on in a while, but I think, I asked whatever I can in the time allocated while also addressing plenty of corruption issues. And I was going to get to, free spoken, all that, but you got to show this. This is another breaking story here. And I saw Eric Sanders in the chat, and here is another scandal to the NYPD. So let's read this out in full. New York, pay attention. Serious allegations now emerging out of the NYPD's 32nd precinct in Manhattan North. That's where that incident happened over the weekend. Multiple officers are reportedly accused of assaulting a private security guard. Followed by claims that a patrol supervisor and other responding officers participated in a cover-up by fabricating evidence and protecting the officers involved. If these allegations are accurate, this is not a minor disciplinary issue. It raises the most fundamental questions about public trust, chain of command responsibilities, and integrity of the department's investigative process. 7 officers are reportedly implicated. My God. And yet the obvious questions remain. Why are these officers still on duty? Under ordinary NYPD disciplinary practice, when officers face serious misconduct allegations involving violence or falsification of records, the department has the authority to remove those officers from duty while an investigation proceeds. Administrative suspension or modified duty exists precisely to protect the integrity of the investigation and maintain public confidence. That principle matters here. When an officer accused of assault and fabricated evidence, allowing him to remain fully deployed raises concerns about witness intimidation, evidence integrity, public confidence in the investigation. Accountability cannot depend on the rank of the officers involved or the internal relationships inside a precinct command. The public has seen this pattern before. On this show, we've been showing it in the last hour. And an incident occurs, reports are written, narratives are coordinated, and the truth takes months or years to surface. New Yorkers deserve better than that. If the allegations are credible, the responsible course is immediate administrative action while the investigation proceeds. That is not punishment. That is basic institutional integrity. Until then, the question remains unanswered. Why are 7 officers accused of assault and fabricated evidence still wearing the uniform today? Jack, I mean, it's like I started the show with this huge story involving the arrest of a captain who did what anyone wearing a uniform would do the same thing. If you're off duty in your own home, you walk into a scene like that. Right now, Chief of Internal Affairs wanted to arrest him. And I don't know what he's thinking because he's too busy fraternizing with his subordinate to know what he's really thinking about. And now you have this 7 officers involved, a patrol supervisor. And we've seen this because the 4-6 had the same incident. Supervisors are not being suspended, but cops are, and cops are suspended over there. But the supervisor, he's only transferred. We don't suspend him and investigate him. Jack, this is a goddamn mess, man. It's unbelievable.
Well, let me give you kind of a hypothesis here. The supervisors not only get special treatment because they're supervisors and longer tenured within the department, but they also get special treatment because they're easier to hide in crony type positions where they're carrying out administrative responsibilities, where the officers, for the most part, with few exceptions, have to go out on the street. But if you're a private citizen and you're going 68 miles per hour on the highway and you get pulled over in a 65 zone by one of these people and they give you a ticket, you could go to the courtroom and say, so-and-so was involved in a situation where they were assaulting a private security guard recently, and they're not credible. They shouldn't be on the street. And there's a good chance, Sal, rightfully or wrongfully, that the judge rips that ticket up and throws it away, right? So it's actually more consequential for the department to have these people back out on the street enforcing the law. Also, I mean, people go through things in their personal lives all the time, but to have people who are being tried on criminal charges enforcing the law is just more of a conflict of interest than anyone could possibly imagine.
You know, I don't know what to say. My head is spinning thinking about everything that I'm seeing, everything I experienced in my time, my own situation. There's like 5 different directions. And listen, the public, you're the number one people that are taking a beating in all of this, and the taxpayer. You got to pay for all this, Michigas. It's not for free, because someone's going to get sued. The city's going to be liable. There's litigation forever. You have to pay the court fees, the lawyer fees, and then the settlement, if not what the jury awards, because no one that goes to a jury is going to want to hear this, see this pattern of corruption, and say, yeah, you deserved it. I don't see that. I see people having compassion and caring and saying, so this is what's been going on all these years, that Joe Cop wants to hide for whatever reason and browbeats you if, God forbid, you whistleblow on anything. If you're a whistleblower on something, flip his locker. You can't do that, but they complain all day. That's what's going on here, Jack. It's like, and it's not me, because there's positive stories. I try to do my best with, but we have to fix these problems. And there's the one positive today is you have a man right now who's being prosecuted for nonsense, and he's really a hero. Even he's a captain, he's a hero captain, but yet, you know, we're not going to acknowledge that. We're just going to say, oh, well, he's got to get prosecuted because Chief Thompson said so. You have some cops in this little incident that occurred with over the weekend. If you're going to acknowledge Chief Edwards and the sergeant, and you have to acknowledge the cops on the scene as well. So, soccer mom, wake up. It's time to acknowledge people, kind of like Roman Reigns says, acknowledge me. Acknowledge the cops that were on that scene as well. I don't know all their names. I can't get, I got so much on my plate with everything, but
yeah.
Whatever
Luis Navarro was the sergeant who's getting all the flowers and roses right now.
Yeah, but there's cops that were there. The cops, your worker bees, you have to acknowledge them and give them kudos and let them feel like, hey, we value we value you too. It's not just the supervisor show here, because there's so many supervisors that should be suspended and transferred and modified, and we're not seeing, or actually prosecuted, and you're not seeing anything. All you see is under the soccer mom, it's a reign of terror where cops take a beating. Everything is a cop's fault, and you can't have it that way, because then the worker bees can't work, because it's just the worker bees getting destroyed. But the queen can do whatever they want. The queen bees do whatever they want. That's not how this works. It's like a system, and it's broken. Sorry, that's just the way.
And these types of individuals are also poisonous to the police culture too. Because imagine what they're going to be doing when that uniform comes on. If they're willing to do whatever the hell they want with security guards on their own, just imagine what's going to happen when they're out in patrol in a crunch, dealing with a crime scene, or there's somewhere where there's a lot of money around. These are low integrity individuals that you cannot trust to go out and be enforcing the law, but you also can't trust them because they're going to be negatively impacting everyone around them and giving them the idea about what's right and wrong. And I just don't want them in my department. Sal, I'm sure you've heard the saying, if you have enough bad apples in a bunch, it spoils the entire tree. That's exactly what's happening here with the NYPD, whether it's the cops who assaulted the security officer, the cops who had sex on duty, the inspector who covered it all up. This is just a rotten culture all the way around. And when there's no accountability, these people feel like they can do whatever they want and just skate free.
This is the biggest problem. I mean, look, Matt O'Brien says soccer mom, One Pleasure Plaza. It's true, and HFL's right. He says, Sal, the job is a double-edged sword. You are right, but at the same time, you have to clean this up, because, like I said, we're throwing roses and pom-poms over and rightfully so, over what happened this weekend. But there were cops. You're not throwing roses and pom-poms there. Meanwhile, you have this mess in front of you that I keep talking about. That it's the soccer mom's not going to tell you, but this is what's going on, and we have to address this. If you can't fix the culture from within, it's over. We're never going to fix this. It's just going to go on like this. You're going to keep rolling forward and nothing gets done. Is that what you want? I'm trying to hold people accountable. If nobody talks about anything, and not Joe Cop, because forget about that guy. Forget about those Joe Coppers. If you don't have this discussion in an open forum and a proper decorum with it also, nothing's ever going to change. A lot of this stuff, I'm telling you, some of this stuff, the soccer mom has absolutely no idea. If I tell you, and believe me, I'm withholding some stuff from you that I know about the soccer mom and what goes on in the police department with her day-to-day functions, but she doesn't know every little thing. Yet she's in charge of this organization. And this guy, Hansi LePetri, is nowhere to be found, by the way. He barely comes to work. He was there Monday morning. He wasn't there over the weekend. And I don't think it's a scheduled vacation, because it can't be two. All these chiefs can't have the same days off. I don't get it. And
the U.S. Open doesn't happen on a Monday.
I know. Come on.
That joke was made because we all know that when we're watching the U.S. Open, you see all of the chiefs around the perimeter and the security detail. It's like the one event where it's like exclusively chiefs. That's kind of the joke I was making there. But I would agree with you, Sal, that Tish doesn't know all of the minute details in terms of what's going on with the department. But I do believe she's a lot more aware of the overall culture than a lot of people are giving her credit for. Because remember, Jessica Tish, she's a billionaire, but she's also a lifelong bureaucrat, spent 6 years in information technology with the NYPD under then Mayor Bill de Blasio, worked in sanitation as well. So she very much so understands the bureaucratic hierarchy that exists within New York City. And she then also knows the culture that's taking place within all of these agencies. So she might not be aware of what's going on, but she knows about the culture. She's well aware of the relationships that are taking place. I'm sure she's had a couple of said relationships herself, as someone who's been doing this a long time and has climbed to the top of the food chain. So let's not just look at her as some naive outsider here who's totally disconnected from the department, because she's well aware of the culture. She just wants to either distance herself from it, or she wants to pretend that she's unaware of it, so she's not forced to take any action. That's my thought process.
Anyway. So I think, yeah, you might have a point, but she's also a little. They're not. She's not informed, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. Michael Hansi LePetri runs a lot of this operation, and also someone we haven't discussed at all that is just in the same room or in the same vicinity, but we kind of forgot about it. Tanya Kinsella.
My God.
Yeah. I know. Listen. There's a lot I know that you don't hear all the time, but I know what you're doing. All your little activities, I know what's going on. And again, the soccer mom runs the police department. She's the head of it, so everything falls at her feet. So she needs to get a grip on the police department. What I'm saying, whether you like it or not, soccer mom, and whether you like your nickname or not, because you clearly are a soccer, you have no clue about half of the stuff I'm saying here. You need to get a grip in the police department. You're in charge. I don't know how long you're going to last. I don't know what it is. You might be chummy with WABC radio or whatever, but that doesn't mean you're going to keep a job. And, the election, the Hochul's election is in November. Who knows if you're around after that? I'm just saying, you got to get a grip if you have any shot of a positive future or your resume, because it's all going to come back. You can only control the media for so long. I mean, your cousin's in the news today, Mr. Epstein associate Steve Tisch. So, you got a lot of skeletons in that closet. If you're honest and forthcoming, people will, be more compassionate towards you. But what you're doing is a disgrace. You're having this captain's, prosecuted for what today? For doing his job, and you're going along with it. Oh, I trust Chief Thompson. Oh, Chief Thompson, by the way, isn't he fraternizing and going to hotels with a subordinate on duty and people see that? And don't talk about that. So unless you're compromised, I'm just speculating. I have no idea why you would keep that guy there. I have no.
Same goes for Tanya Kinsella, by the way, because she was in Eric Adams' appointment as first deputy commissioner back in July of 2023, and she's been allowed to stay on in that role by now, Commissioner.
Yes, sneaky.
And Mayor Mamdani, like, weren't you going to be overhauling the police department? But it is interesting. Jessica Tisch does receive a lot of positive coverage because she is a member of the Tisch family, but it seems like the media has shifted a little bit with the disconnect taking place between her and Mamdani. This is an article that was actually published about an hour ago, Trial by Fire for Tisch and Mamdani, New York's premier odd couple. So I think the media is starting to realize that there's a lot of tension between these two sides, and a divorce, in my opinion, is imminent. There's no way that we go on for 2 to 3 more years like this, where they're constantly.
They don't talk. There's no communication. It's what you're seeing is the dog and pony act. The press conferences, they don't communicate. They don't like each other. I'm just telling you the facts. You could have a certain blowhard on WABC radio try to spin the wheels for you, and another blowhard on Fox. It's all lies. I am telling you straight from right there in that building, in that office, they don't talk. They don't like each other. Okay? I've been right about everything. I'm not going to steer you wrong here. You can double check, triple check. The only people that keep repeating the same things are her minions in the media. That's just the fact. The facts are that's why there's a huge disconnect. But over the weekend, she did a good job. I'm just telling you, I'm being honest with you.
I thought so too, and it was gonna take a conflict of some sort over something that happened to really see where Tish and Mamdani stood. Because remember, when Mamdani was first elected into office, it seemed like they were going to make up and everything was going to be okay. But the minute Snowball Gate happened, the minute the IED was thrown outside Gracie Mansion, it seemed like the two sides had a distinctly different strategic approach. And I'll tell you, Sal, a lot of people have been talking about this in the comment section and also on X. It was very weird that Mamdani was not present with Tish at any point in time when she was speaking about what took place outside of Gracie Mansion. He was actually hiding inside, tweeting on social media about it. So, I mean, no, listen, anytime a catastrophe like that takes place in a city, you see the mayor, the police commissioner, the chief of department, all standing side by side. In this case, all you saw was Commissioner Tish, and Mamdani was MIA all the way around until 24 hours later. So it's weird to see how Mamdani has distanced himself from the police department, given that he's responsible for overseeing it. But I guess he operates with the philosophy that I'm the CEO of the company, and the subordinates that I'm hiring are tasked with managing their specific agency, and I'm just going to kind of course correct when they go offline.
The CEO approach doesn't exactly work. Just ask the president that. Just ask that. What's going on with Corey Lewandowski? He's asking for a pardon now. Yo, come on. But
you would agree with that assessment, though. I mean, Mamdani is very much so a CEO style mayor.
Yeah, he's a CEO style mayor. He's like Bill de Blasio was the same way. And to Bill de Blasio's point, though, that he left the police department kind of ran itself, whoever's the police commissioner, the fire commissioner. That's the old approach. Obviously, Eric Adams thought he was running every department and had his cronies. It was just a free-for-all because he just pointed bad people. Mamdani, on the other hand, he doesn't know how to be a CEO. You know, he's never had a job. It's a problem. I told people this would happen. You're seeing it play out. And clearly, there's a huge disconnect with this police commissioner. And I know all these pro-cop and Joe Cop and all these advocates, the police department, rah, rah, rah. She's not good for the culture. She doesn't understand it. I keep telling people this, and you're seeing it every day. Every day. I hate to say this, and I'm not a fan of his, but good old Mr. Consofrito, Eddie Caban, and his whole entourage there they used to bring around, including Jimmy Rodriguez. The reason he was a police commissioner, he understood the culture. He came from it. You know, he got met. Now, he kind of lost his ways along the way. He forgot that he's a police commissioner and not Eddie from the block. And that's what, but, you know, he was trying to do the right thing with cops, with discipline. Then he got a little too carried away. He let all his cronies off. But he understands the culture, and you stood better off, even with a corrupt police commissioner like him, because he understood the culture. And I don't want to corrupt police commissioner, but I'm trying to make the point. He came from the culture. So that's why it was a good approach to have him as a police commissioner versus the soccer mom who does not come from the culture. We just saw this play out with Homeland Security. Kristi Noem didn't come from Homeland Security. Civilian, was the governor.
Governor of South Dakota, yeah.
Shooting dogs in her backyard. She looked like, what is she? The
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman, the Barbie. Absolutely no clue what to do with Homeland Security. And then what happened? You have all these kickbacks being alleged, these contracts, which she's going to land in hot water. And then you find out that Corey Lewandowski, that little creep, he's the guy running around as the de facto head of Homeland Security. He was never given a, I don't know, he was even working for the government. Or is he work? Who knows? But you know what he was running around saying? He thought that he could get away with anything because in the end, Trump's just going to pardon him. And I guess is that if that's the strategy of these people who think they're just going to walk on water and do all these crazy things because I could walk on water because I get away with it. I don't know. This does not look well for the Republican Party. Definitely not on Trump having stooges like Corey Lewandowski. I don't know why is Corey Lewandowski involved in this administration. You know, I don't get that at all. But this is the problems we're going to be facing in the future, and that's my best example.
Yeah, and the funny thing about Noem's firing as it pertains to this is that it got a lot of bipartisan support. 64% of Democrats, but more than half of Republicans also supported her firing. So, I mean, she was someone that was largely unpopular. But as I'm sure you know, Sal, there's been a lot of divide within MAGA land over the past couple of months over some of the decisions that President Trump made, mainly with the Epstein files and starting the war with Iran. And obviously the killing of two innocent citizens in Minneapolis by ICE, which we've talked about extensively. But the battle between Trump and Republicans in Washington absolutely reached a new level yesterday when the president actually flew to Kentucky to campaign in Thomas Massey's district. He's campaigning for Ed Gallerin, who's now challenging Massey for KY4. And Gallerin, I mean, he's a horrible candidate, and he made a fool of himself on the debate stage. So let's take a listen to his pitch to voters and why they should support him.
I hope the fake news gets this. Tom Massey stands with the ladies of The View. Tom Massey stands with the ladies of The View. Mr. President, we stand with you. Fight, fight, fight! USA! USA!
I don't think he made one competent sentence his entire time talking on stage next to President Trump. And if you're President Trump, that's a really bad look for you because you're flying to another state on taxpayer dollars with a war actively going on to campaign for a candidate who, by all indications, is going to get smoked by Thomas Massey. So you're also associating yourself with the loser. I really don't understand this decision, Sal. Like, you clearly don't like Massey and you want to send a message to congressional Republicans. Like, I'm not going to be tolerating nonsense from you guys anymore. I'm tired of receiving all this pushback. So I'm going to be campaigning for people that are working with me and not working against me. But this was the wrong fight to pick because Gallerin sounded like an idiot repeating the same sentence twice. And he didn't say one thing about what he was actually going to do. Also, the turnout in the crowd was way more enthusiastic about listening to President Trump than Gallerin. So this was just a really odd spectacle all the way around.
Yeah, that guy, look, Trump wants to like even the score. He doesn't like Massey, but that's not how I mean, this guy can't. Look, it's the same as me telling you Bruce Blakeman is going to be the next governor of New York. Come on. You got to live in reality. That guy's not going to win. And for him to even go there and campaign, look, you can do what you want. You know, you're the president, but that guy's not going to win. And you know it. You know that Massey's going to win. You don't like him because he isn't on the sycophant bandwagon. That's why. If he was a sycophant, you'd love him like you love a lot of the other sycophants that cheer, you know, every little decision Trump makes, whether it's good or bad, you know, whatever. But
well, the craziest part about all of this is Trump went down to Kentucky with the hope that he would propel Gallerin to victory. But based on the new odds that were released by Kalashi this morning, his chances of winning actually went down by double digits because Trump showed up. So that goes to show that the allegiance in Massey's district is stronger to Massey than it is to Trump. And hearing from Trump about the race has actually motivated people even more to go out and vote for Thomas Massey. So I don't really understand the strategic approach from the president's perspective. Also, if you're fighting a foreign war, you shouldn't be flying to a district where you have very little influence to go campaign for someone else. So really just baffling process there for President Trump. But listen, he's going to speak his mind. He's going to put his opinion out there. He likes going out and meeting with constituents who voted for him because it helps massage his ego. And that's just how he conducts business.
No, we're going to see what happens there. But I don't see that ending in Trump's favor. So I want to pivot to this because I didn't say it. I'll say it now. If you guys can go to salgreco.com. I'm kind of revamping the website. You could go click on a support button if you want to help out me and Jack as we try to grow the show. Obviously, as you can see, this is a lot of information I'm getting. It's a lot of work here, and we're self-funded here, folks. It's not. This isn't like Coca-Cola and Pepsi are knocking on our doors here. So if you can, you click the support button. We're gonna revamp some of those features as well. I'm working on the store for merchandise as well. It's just things are in layers. If we were a big operation, I'd just snap my fingers and make it happen. So if you can, salgreco.com/support. Also, if you want to join the Italian-American Civil Rights League, last night was the dinner. There was a Fort Lauderdale Republicans were there. A couple of people were there. Casa Calabria out here in Fort Lauderdale, and we honored Roger Stone. But if you want to join, iacrl.org, right? You go there and you can become a member. I'm a member. I'm actually on the board of the IACRL, and we fight for the rights of Italian Americans. And there's a memberships if whatever layer, whatever tier you want to be in. And also, as you know, the search engines, right? When you go on, why would you want to go on the mainstream ones, right? But you could just go to Free Spoke. Now, I know you're tired of searching on the web for things and not getting the results you're looking for. I have something for you. Free Spoke. Free Spoke is a search engine that is all about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels, media bias, no intrusions, or data leaking or your data being taken from you. Porn free, none of those ads, unlimited, unbiased AI, deep dive podcast searching, and you can get it by going to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Use the same link to get a 35% discount on your premium subscription. What are you waiting for, folks? This is the way of the future. Free Spoke. Yeah, actually, the link has now changed, so I got to update that. It's freespoke.referralrock.com/L/Salvatore G59. That's how you get your discount now. They're revamping how their website to sign up there too for Free Spoke. So keep a lookout on that one. And so we still have a few minutes. So I don't know what you want to give your final takes on for today and for the weekend. You got all this corruption.
Yeah. No, I was laughing when we went to Free Spoke because this was the perfect segue into our final segment of the day, which was about the Italian World Baseball Classic team pulling off another huge win over Mexico yesterday, 9-1. They crushed Mexico. And it was crazy because a lot of the Latin American teams have very large followings. So anytime Italy hit a home run, the crowd was like silent. You could hear a pin drop. But big shout out to the Italian stallion, Vinny Pasquantino. 3 home runs yesterday. You can see him here taking the now viral espresso shot. I think I like that more than any of the home run celebrations. Remember, these Italians, baseball's not that big in Italy. It's not like the World Cup where, you get people huddling around a TV from all over the world watching the Italian national soccer team. No, this is a smaller thing, yet the team has showed out. They beat America on Wednesday night. They beat Mexico last night. And now they're going to the quarterfinals with a chance to win the entire tournament. Really incredible story. And this is what I was just talking about, by the way, the espresso shot after they hit a home run. This is Kyle Teal from Tuesday night, rather. He gets the double kiss from Pasquantino, too. I love this celebration. How do you not love the espresso shot? It's like the coolest thing known to mankind.
I listen. I'm Italian, so I'm always rooting for Italy. I know they beat America the other day. They beat their brains in, and America they snuck in America anyway. But I don't know if they could win this whole thing. And anyway, I was at Epic Hotel not too long ago, where the World Baseball Classic. That's where the players go when they stay at that hotel. And I actually saw. Well, you couldn't see the Dominican Republic team was going to the game. So I don't know where Juan Soto was, but I know he was in the vicinity. And the team, I saw them before they went to play Nicaragua, I think, and they crushed them that day. But
it's like an all-star team. I mean, you have Soto, Tatis, O'Neal Cruz. The pitching is fantastic too. I don't really like having all of those A-level players on one team, but I guess the rules are the rules, and because they're from the Dominican Republic, they can play that with that team. But they've also rewritten the rules in the sense that you've seen those crazy celebrations every time they hit the home run. Italy, when they hit a home run, they do the espresso shot, they high five in the dugout. But when the Dominican Republic hits a home run, all the players come flying out of the dugout. They're hugging, they're putting a jacket on, they're high fiving. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing for sports that the younger generation is all of a sudden starting to celebrate a lot more. But I think it's more so bad when you consider that it's an all-star team essentially playing against high schoolers, and they're just like bragging and celebrating about it. But hey, you want to have nationalistic pride. That's what the World Baseball Classic is for. And they're certainly having a good time as well as winning.
I don't know. Well, hey, I'll give you a final. You got some super chat here too. Frankie Palaguacci again in the comments says the truth is always attacked because it is valuable and priceless. Support the show. And he also gave another $9.99 to the Sal Greco Show. Keep it going, Sal. More light shining. Thank you. Also, here we have Fox with a $2 super sticker. Shout out to you. And listen, we always like the super chats. You can also use that if you want to ask questions, maybe questions even on who we have on as guests. But there'll be more to come in the future. I see. Hold on. IMP Franco says, I don't know about beating our brains in South. We lost 8-6. Now that Mexicans got their break speed off, and he's laughing. But
yeah, but it's still an upset. I mean, baseball is huge.
Whoa, it's 8-0. They were losing 8-0. Italy was winning 8-0. America scored 6 runs, but it's like when you take out the A team and put in the B team. Yeah. Oh, you scored 6 runs on the B team? Come on.
And Nolan McLean was smashed around by that.
Which doesn't bow well for my Mets. So they got smacked around. I don't know what's going to happen with the Mets. You got to hope for the best.
And Team USA looks like they're going to be underachieving yet again. The Giants
have new owners, by the way. The Giants have because Steve Tisch is,
he's on the Epstein files.
He's the Epstein files, and
maybe Mamdani can get him a job in New York City with one of the agencies.
Oh my God, yeah. So I don't
liaison to Epstein's cronies who are still alive. I don't know. Is that a new position? Guess so.
Well, I don't know. I think we've covered a lot today. There'll be more to come. Follow us again, the Sal Greco Show on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell on there. Also on Rumble, hit the Rumble button. Follow us on there. Subscribe there. On TikTok, where we're really growing, follow us on TikTok at the Sal Greco Show. Same on Instagram. On X, you can follow Jack, J_Stern97, myself, the Sal Greco. Follow me on X, where you can like and share this show, and also on Instagram at the Sal Greco. I think we covered everything. Friday night, more highlights, 7 p.m. You can check that out, worldhighlightleague.com. I believe my team, the Chargers, are in the 2nd or 3rd place right now, but we're still, a couple of weeks into the season. So check that out this weekend. Also more World Baseball Classic. Inter Milan's playing again. I know they lost last weekend, but still in 1st place. So times are looking up, except if you're an executive in the police department where you could maybe get away with everything or get locked up for doing your job. That's what's going on there. So I pray for New York City all the time. Hope everyone has a great weekend. It's going to be good weather, at least not here in South Florida, but hopefully New York, I think they're going to hit with a snowstorm. They had some good weather for a while. So everybody, I hope everything goes well for you. Make sure you go to your church, synagogue, mosque, wherever it is that you pray to. Make sure you go there and pray to God and hope that he shows some mercy on all of us, because with this war and everything going, oh, whatever, it's an excursion now. With that going on, you really need to pray.
I thought we won the war.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, we won the war. Yeah.
Or do we need to win more? We need to run the score up, right? It's only 5-0.
We won. Yeah, it's over. It's over. Yeah.
Is there a mercy rule in said war?
Yeah, yeah.
Like if we're winning 10-0, do we just get to pull out and declare victory?
Only in West Palm Beach you can declare. Oh, I'm sorry. On Palm Beach, not West Palm Beach. On Palm Beach.
On Palm Beach. Yeah.
You can declare victory and everyone cheers and everything.
West Palm Beach, there was a protest that walked all the way to Mar-a-Lago 2 weeks ago. I think it's a little too far away now.
Yeah. Remember,
around Mar-a-Lago.
Lone Silence, a great show as always, and have a great day, everyone. See some of you at the DL for tonight's party. By the way, all those parties should be actually going through the Chief of Internal Affairs office to approve. Oh, wait. Oh, he's not there. He's fraternizing right now. And so is the executive. So unbelievable. Cooler heads need to prevail. We'll see you on Monday. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Again, stay tuned to the Sal Greco Show, because there's always exclusives coming up there on YouTube and Rumble, and also on TikTok and Instagram and X. So we'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. And of course, we're signing off from South Florida, which, as you know, is a sunny place for shady people.
What I'm asking New Yorkers for is to look back at all the things I've done as a deputy commissioner for operations, the assistant commissioner, and my time as a not only as a New Yorker but as a police officer. I get stuff done.
Listen, there was a book that came out that Jasmine Ray wrote, and in the Daily News today, it stated that there was a sexual action that happened in Borough Hall. She reported in that book, and it wasn't. You're a dark, sick person, man. You know that? You're a dark, sick person. Your name was on the byline. And there's some of you that have been covering me. You guys could part. Let me do this. Y'all could depart. Y'all could depart. Some of you have been covering me for 3.5 years. Some of you are so sick and dark, and you're the leader of that. You're one of the most dark writers that I've ever seen in this city. And your personal sick vendetta and the sickness of how you think of over-sexualizing a black man, that in the book is stated that there was a sexual action in Borough Hall. That was never in the book. But that's typical of the sickness and the darkness of your sick mind. You're one of the sickest reporters I know. Go to the next question. You're a sick person.